Julio's first love revival, when childhood sweetheart returned after 60 years. At 79 years old, Julio Iglesias received a letter that changed everything. The handwriting was unmistakable. It belonged to Carmen Ruiz, his first love from Madrid, whom he hadn't spoken to in 60 years. The girl who taught him what love felt like had found him again. And their reunion would reveal how one teenage romance shaped every love song he ever wrote. This investigation uncovers the profound impact of first love on artistic creation, exploring how a teenage romance in 1950s Madrid became the emotional foundation for some of the world's most beloved romantic music. On a quiet Tuesday morning in March 2019, Julio's personal assistant, Maria Santos, received what appeared to be routine fan mail at his Miami estate. The envelope was different. Elegant handwriting, expensive paper, a Madrid postmark. Inside was a letter that would reunite two souls separated by 6 decades of fame, family, and distance. "I've managed Julio's correspondence for 15 years, Maria Santos explains from her Miami office. This letter was different immediately. The handwriting was careful, elegant, personal. When I read the first line, "My dear Julio, you probably don't remember me, but I am Carmen from Chamartin," I knew this wasn't ordinary fan mail. Carmen Ruiz had written from her modest apartment in Madrid's Chamartin district, the same neighborhood where she and Julio had fallen in love as teenagers in 1958. At 78 years old, recently widowed after a 50-year marriage, she had decided to reach out to the boy who had been her first love. "I had followed his career from the beginning," Carmen explains in her first interview about their reunion, conducted via video call from her Madrid home. "I bought every album, watched every television appearance, attended concerts when he performed in Madrid, but I never contacted him. He belonged to the world and I belonged to my life." The letter was simple but profound. 3 pages describing her life since 1962, when they had last spoken. A marriage to a good man, 3 children, a career as a school teacher, the quiet satisfaction of a well-lived life. But most importantly, it contained a revelation that would shake Julio's understanding of his own artistic development. The love story began in 1958 in Madrid's Chamartin district, where 15-year-old Julio Iglesias met 14-year-old Carmen Ruiz at a neighborhood dance. Both were from middle-class families. Julio's father a doctor, Carmen's father an engineer. Their romance bloomed in the innocent atmosphere of 1950 Spain. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a cultural historian specializing in 1950s Spanish youth culture, provides context for their relationship. Young love in Franco's Spain was heavily chaperoned and formal. Relationships developed slowly, through family gatherings, neighborhood events, and carefully supervised meetings. This created intense emotional connections because physical expression was so limited. Julio and Carmen's courtship followed traditional patterns: walks in Retiro Park with friends, family dinners, handwritten letters, and stolen moments of conversation after Sunday Mass. But their connection was extraordinary, according to childhood friends who witnessed their romance. Julio was completely transformed when he was with Carmen, recalls Miguel Torres, a classmate who remained friends with both until they parted. He was naturally shy and serious, but around Carmen he became animated, funny, almost poetic in how he talked about everything from music to dreams for the future. Carmen's influence in young Julio was profound and immediate. She introduced him to poetry, encouraged his early musical interests, and most importantly, taught him to express emotions through words and music. Carmen was the one who first told Julio he should write songs, Torres continues. She would listen to him play guitar and suggest that he put his feelings into lyrics. She was his first audience and his first critic. In 1962, when Julio was 19 and Carmen 18, their families made decisions that would separate them permanently. Julio's football career had ended due to injury, and his parents encouraged him to pursue law school and music seriously. Carmen's family, concerned about their daughter's attachment to a boy with uncertain prospects, arranged for her to spend a year with relatives in Barcelona. The separation wasn't dramatic or angry, Carmen recalls. Both families believed we were too young and too serious too quickly. They thought distance would help us develop independently before making permanent decisions about our futures. The separation was planned as temporary, but life intervened. During Carmen's year in Barcelona, Julio's music career began accelerating. He started performing professionally, recording demos, and building the foundation of what would become international stardom. When I returned from Barcelona, Julio was already becoming famous in Madrid music circles, Carmen explains. I was proud of him, but I also realized he was entering a world where I didn't belong. His life was becoming extraordinary, and mine was beautifully ordinary. Their last meaningful conversation occurred at a cafe near the Prado Museum in December 1962. Both had grown during their separation, but in different directions. Carmen had decided to pursue teacher training, while Julio was planning his first international tour. We both knew it was goodbye, not because we stopped loving each other, but because we loved each other enough to let each other grow toward the lives we were meant to live. What Carmen's 2019 letter revealed shocked Julio. She had recognized herself in his songs from the very beginning, not just in obvious lyrics about lost love or teenage romance, but in musical patterns, emotional structures, and artistic approaches that traced directly back to their relationship. Music psychologist Dr. Patricia Moore has studied the influence of early relationships on artistic development and explains the phenomenon. First love creates emotional templates that artists unconsciously return to throughout their careers. The intensity, the vocabulary of feeling, the understanding of romantic possibility all become embedded in their creative DNA. Carmen's influence on Julio's music was both specific and pervasive. Emotional vocabulary, the way Julio expressed longing, tenderness, and romantic idealism in his songs, directly reflected the emotional language he had developed during their teenage relationship. Melodic patterns. Carmen had been musical herself, playing piano and singing in her church choir. Her influence on Julio's understanding of melody and harmony was profound and lasting. Lyrical themes. Many of Julio's most successful songs dealt with themes that originated in their relationship. Pure love, respectful devotion, the beauty of memory, and the bittersweet nature of time's passage. Performance sincerity. Carmen had taught Julio that singing required complete emotional honesty. This became the foundation of his performance style throughout his career. Reading Carmen's letter, I realized she had been my unconscious collaborator for 60 years, Julio reflects. Every love song was a conversation with the memory of our love. While Julio had unconsciously channeled their relationship into his music, Carmen had consciously recognized the connections from the beginning. Her letter describes decades of listening to his songs and hearing private moments from their teenage relationship transformed into universal romantic expression. The first time I heard "Hey" on the radio, I cried, Carmen writes in her letter. The emotion in his voice was exactly how he sounded when he told me he loved me for the first time, sitting in my parents' garden in 1959. He was sharing our private joy with the whole world, and somehow that made it even more beautiful. Carmen's recognition wasn't limited to obvious love songs. She identified their relationship's influence in "To All the Girls I've Loved Before." She recognized the section about remembering first love as specifically referencing their relationship and the lessons it taught him about appreciating every romantic experience. Begin the Begin. The way Julio interpreted this classic reflected the sophisticated musical discussions they had shared as teenagers about emotion and musical expression. Amor. Carmen heard echoes of their conversations about the different types of love and how romantic love could be both passionate and respectful. It was like having a secret conversation that lasted 60 years, Carmen explains. He was talking to me through this music, and I was listening, even though neither of us knew it consciously. After receiving Carmen's letter, Julio spent weeks deciding how to respond. His initial instinct was immediate. Fly to Madrid and see her immediately. But wisdom and caution prevailed. This wasn't just about reconnecting with an old friend, explains Dr. Ana Garcia, a relationship counselor who specializes in reconnections after long separations. This was about two people in their late 70s, confronting the emotional foundation of their adult lives. It required careful consideration and preparation. Julio's approach was characteristically thoughtful. He wrote back immediately, expressing his joy at hearing from her and his amazement at her insights about their relationship's influence on his music. But he suggested they reconnect gradually, allowing both to process the emotions involved. Their correspondence over the following months was extensive and revealing. Carmen shared details about her life, her marriage to a good man who had known about Julio and respected their history, her 3 children who had grown up listening to Julio's music, her career as a beloved elementary school teacher. Julio shared his own journey, the loneliness that fame could create, his gratitude for his musical success, his pride in his children, and most significantly, his growing understanding of how much their teenage relationship had shaped his emotional development. Our letters became like the conversations we might have had if we had stayed in touch, Carmen explains. We caught up on 60 years in 6 months of writing. In November 2019, during one of his rare private visits to Madrid, Julio arranged to meet Carmen at the same cafe near the Prado where they had said goodbye in 1962. The location was his suggestion, a conscious return to their last shared moment. Carmen arrived first, as she had been taught by her mother decades earlier. She described the experience in a subsequent letter to her daughter. I saw him approaching from across the street, and for a moment, he was 19 again. Then he came closer, and I saw the man he had become, still beautiful, but marked by time and experience, just as I was. Their reunion was emotionally overwhelming, but surprisingly natural. The 6 months of correspondence had rebuilt their friendship, and prepared them for the physical reality of their aged selves meeting their memories. The first thing he said was, "You still have the most beautiful smile in Madrid," Carmen recalls. The first thing I said was, "You still have the voice that makes hearts stop." We both laughed because we sounded like teenagers. They spent 4 hours talking, walking through their old neighborhood, visiting the church where they had attended mass together, sitting in the park where they had shared their first kiss. The conversation was deep but not painful. 2 old friends celebrating a shared history rather than mourning a lost possibility. During their reunion, Julio asked Carmen to explain more specifically how she had recognized their relationship in his songs. Her answers provided insights into his creative process that he had never consciously understood. She could identify the exact conversations and experiences that had influenced specific songs. Julio explains, "It was like having someone read your diary and explain your own emotional development to you." Carmen's analysis was remarkably sophisticated. Melodic memory. She explained how certain melodies in his songs directly echoed tunes she used to hum while they walked together, or chord progressions he had discovered while playing guitar for her. Emotional architecture. She described how the emotional flow of his songs, building from tenderness to passion to resolution, mirrored the emotional patterns of their teenage relationship. Linguistic choices. Even in English translations, she could identify Spanish phrases and emotional expressions that originated in their private conversations. Performance vulnerability. She explained how his ability to sound emotionally vulnerable while maintaining masculine strength reflected the safe emotional space their relationship had created. Carmen gave me the missing piece of understanding about my own artistic development. Julio reflects. I finally understood where my emotional vocabulary came from. Both Julio's and Carmen's families reacted to their reunion with curiosity, understanding, and support. Carmen's children had always known about Julio. Their mother had never hidden the fact that her first love had become a famous singer. My children grew up listening to Julio's music and knowing that their mother had dated him as a teenager, Carmen explains. They were excited about the reunion and proud that their mother had influenced such beautiful music. Carmen's daughter Elena provides her perspective. We always joked that Julio was singing to our mother, but we didn't realize how literally true that was until they reconnected. It's beautiful to know that our mother's first love created music that has brought joy to millions of people. His children understood that this reunion was about honoring the past rather than creating complications in the present. My father has always been honest about the importance of all his relationships, Enrique Iglesias commented in a rare interview about family matters. Carmen clearly played a crucial role in his emotional development and artistic foundation. We're grateful to her for helping create the music that built our family's success. Through their renewed correspondence and occasional meetings when Julio visits Madrid, both have engaged in what psychologists call life review, with the benefit of understanding how their early relationship shaped their subsequent choices. Carmen reflects on her marriage with new insight. I chose a husband who was kind, steady, and completely different from the passionate, artistic boy I had loved. I thought I was being practical, but now I realize I was trying to create a life that wouldn't compete with the memory of perfect first love. Her marriage was happy and successful, producing 3 accomplished children and a 50-year partnership that ended only with her husband's death in 2018. But Carmen now understands that she unconsciously chose safety over passion, protecting her marriage from comparison to the intensity she had experienced with Julio. Julio's reflection is equally profound. Every woman I ever loved was compared, unconsciously, to Carmen, not in terms of appearance or personality, but in terms of the emotional safety and creative inspiration she provided. I was searching for that feeling again without realizing it. This insight has helped Julio understand patterns in his relationships and approach his current life with greater emotional clarity. Most remarkably, their reunion has led to a form of creative collaboration that bridges their 6 decades of separation. Carmen has begun writing down her memories of their conversations about music, love, and artistic expression, providing Julio with insights into his own creative development. Carmen is helping me understand my own artistic journey by sharing her memories of our early conversations about music and emotion. She remembers discussions I had completely forgotten about the relationship between music and memory, between performance and vulnerability. Their collaboration has influenced Julio's recent work in subtle but significant ways. Lyrical sophistication. His recent songs show increased emotional complexity that reflects their mature conversations about love, loss, and the passage of time. Performance depth. His live performances have gained additional emotional resonance as he consciously connects with the emotional foundation Carmen helped him build. Recording approach. He has begun recording some songs specifically as messages to Carmen, creating music that honors their relationship while speaking to universal experiences. Working with Julio's memories has helped me understand how our teenage relationship contributed to art that has touched millions of lives. That knowledge gives our love story significance beyond personal nostalgia. Their reunion raises profound questions about the nature of love, artistic inspiration, and the role of memory in creative development that extend far beyond their personal story. Dr. Roberto Silva, a philosopher specializing in aesthetics and emotion, has studied their case. The Julio-Carmen story demonstrates how early emotional experiences become artistic DNA that shapes creative expression throughout an artist's life. Their reunion provides unprecedented insight into the relationship between personal experience and artistic creation, Philosophical implications include love as creative foundation. Their story suggests that profound early love experiences create emotional templates that continue influencing artistic expression decades later. Memory as living collaboration. Carmen's conscious recognition of their relationship in Julio's music suggests that memory itself can be a form of ongoing creative collaboration across time. Art as unconscious communication. Julio's unconscious channeling of their relationship into music that Carmen consciously recognized demonstrates how art can facilitate communication across years of separation. Time as creative medium. Their story shows how time itself becomes part of the creative process, allowing early experiences to mature into artistic expression that gains meaning through temporal evolution. Distance. Word of Julio and Carmen's reunion has inspired other people to reconnect with important relationships from their past, creating what relationship counselors call the Carmen effect. We've seen a significant increase in people seeking to reconnect with first loves and important relationships from their youth, explains Dr. Patricia Moore, who studies relationship patterns in older adults. Julio and Carmen's story demonstrates that such reunions can be healing and meaningful rather than disruptive or painful. The influence extends beyond personal relationships to artistic communities, where the story has become a symbol of how early emotional experiences continue shaping creative work throughout an artist's life. Young musicians and writers have cited their story as inspiration for honoring their own early emotional influences and understanding how personal relationships contribute to artistic development. Their reunion has become a cultural touchstone for understanding the relationship between life and art, Dr. Moore notes. Today, Julio and Carmen maintain a warm friendship that honors their history while respecting their current life circumstances. They correspond regularly, meet occasionally when Julio is in Madrid, and have created a relationship that bridges their past and present. We're not trying to recapture our teenage romance, Carmen explains. We're two old friends who shared something beautiful and important, and we're grateful to understand how that experience continued influencing our lives. Their relationship serves multiple functions. Historical understanding. They help each other understand their own life journeys by providing missing pieces of personal history. Artistic collaboration. Carmen continues providing insights into Julio's creative process, while he shares how their relationship influenced specific songs and performances. Emotional support. Both find comfort in having someone who remembers their younger selves and can appreciate how they've grown and changed. Legacy appreciation. They're both grateful to understand the lasting positive impact their teenage relationship had on millions of people who have been touched by the music it inspired. The reunion of Julio Iglesias and Carmen Ruiz reveals how first love never truly ends. It transforms, influences, and continues shaping lives and art across decades. Their story demonstrates that early emotional experiences become part of the foundation for all subsequent relationships and creative expression. Music historian Dr. Elena Fernandez places their story in broader context. The Julio-Carmen reunion provides unprecedented insight into how personal relationships influence artistic creation. Their story will be studied by researchers interested in understanding the connection between life experience and artistic achievement. Their legacy includes artistic understanding, new appreciation for how personal relationships contribute to creative development and artistic expression, relationship wisdom, demonstration that meaningful relationships from the past can be honored and integrated into present life without creating conflict or disruption, cultural impact, recognition that individual love stories can influence global culture through their contribution to art and music that touches millions of lives. Emotional education, teaching about the lasting impact of first love and the importance of honoring formative emotional experiences. Today, When Julio Iglesias performs his most beloved romantic songs, he carries new understanding of their emotional origins and artistic development. Carmen Ruiz, listening from her Madrid apartment, or occasionally from concert halls when he performs in Spain, experiences the unique joy of hearing her teenage love transformed into music that has brought happiness to millions. Their reunion didn't rewrite their history. It completed their understanding of how that history had continued shaping their lives, and, through Julio's music, touching the lives of others. The conversation that began in 1958, interrupted in 1962, and resumed in 2019, continues through the music that connects them across time and distance. The letters still arrive regularly, filled with memories, insights, and the kind of deep friendship that can only exist between two people who shared something beautiful and watched it grow into something even more meaningful than they could have imagined as teenagers dreaming in the parks of Madrid. Love stories don't always have endings. Sometimes they have transformations that prove more beautiful than any conclusion could ever be.